Fire Sword, Chapter 44, Defying Destiny. Many men in Validar's situation, surrounded by hardened warriors with a grudge to settle and no one in the immediate vicinity to back them up, would have gotten on their knees and hoped for mercy. Of course, he was hardly a normal man, nor were these normal circumstances, he thought. The pieces have come together just as fate decreed it. Come to witness the end of the light with your friends, Princeling, he sneered as he gestured to the altar behind him, where the fire emblem rested, surrounded by a dark aura. It was foretold that you would be here, but I didn't think it would be so easy to bring you back so soon after our little run-in. Laugh while you can, Validar, Robin said defiantly from beside his best friend. You won't be doing it for long. Oh, is this your rebellious stage, son? Validar cackled, causing Robin to flinch at the epithet. Just like your mother. If she hadn't been seized by weakness, the wretched line of Naga would have ended years ago. That's my family you're talking about, the blond man snapped, his eyes flaring with a dangerous light. Beware. I will not tolerate such insults to their person. You are the ones that should be wary, the King of Plesia said in a strangely soft tone. Do you know where it is that you stand? Should it matter? Kirito demanded from behind Robin. Foolish boy! This is Grima's table! Validar thundered. It's not called that for no reason, you almighty fools! This isn't just a place where the people come to worship. It's where the fell dragon feeds! Several of the shepherds appeared sick at his words. The people outside? Asuna gasped. Why would anyone offer themselves up to that thing? Because human beings crave worship, stupid girl, Validar laughed. Whether they would admit it or not, every human being that has ever lived worships something. Whether that is a god, an item, status, or an idea, it matters not. Thanks to the war with the Lys and the death of Gangrel, the people of Plesia were lost, frightened, confused. They jumped at the chance to give their meager existences some worth. That's horrible, Robin shouted. How could you justify all of this? It was for you, Validar thundered. You are at the center of it all, Robin! What are you talking about? Lucina demanded. Explain your power over him. It's all the power he gave me, meddler, Validar answered ominously. You see, we nearly have the life energy we need to resurrect Lord Grima. Now the fell dragon only needs a living host, a vessel worthy of preserving his power. And behold, after 1,000 years, a vessel fit for a god has come forth. He stabbed a finger at Robin, leaving no mistake as to whom he could be speaking about. Wait, you... the young man said, paling to the shade of a bedsheet. You mean I'm Grima? You soon will be, Validar howled with laughter. That's right, son. It was you. In the future, you betrayed your friends, murdered the princeling, and destroyed your precious wife's world. Well done indeed. No, Robin cried, clutching at his hair, eyes looking around wildly, trying to escape this awful truth, this unending nightmare. I didn't. I wouldn't. Did you truly forget who you are? Validar scoffed. You are my son, Robin. I follow Grima's will, and as my son, my will is yours, whether it is a free will or not. You have no choice. He has the choice that we offered him, Sumiya said from the other side of Crom, surprising many of the shepherds with her boldness. Normally she kept quiet on the battlefield, but apparently this was important enough for her to break past her normally timid approach to life. Crom and the rest of us gave him the choice to stay and build a new family or go back to what you would make of him, an isolated, unloved puppet. He chose us. You don't have the right to call yourself his father, Yui added as she rose in the air with the other fairies. You may share blood, but that's all you have in common. Is this supposed to move me in some way, change the outcome of your inescapable doom? Validar laughed again. This is so sweet I might vomit. The last few words were spoken with unimaginable hatred while he cast a spell from a tome hidden in his robes. The next instant, an impenetrable barrier of dark energy sprung up between the two leaders of the shepherds and their warriors. A moment later, Risen and Grimleal alike began pouring into the worship hall to menace the shepherds and the warriors of Alfheim. Keyboy, you're the only one of the three COs outside of that barrier, Argo said nervously as she gripped her dagger. What are we going to do? Hold your ground and make them regret crossing paths with us, the black swordsman said grimly as he drew his swords. Robin and Crom can handle the boss. We've got the easy part. Man's right, Agiel boomed as he hefted his axe. Come on, shepherds, let's make some noise. The battle against fate itself had begun. Validar was surprisingly agile and skilled as a warrior, Crom thought, as he swung at the Dark King again and again, only to have his falchion being blocked with dark energy every time. The worshipper of Grima had obviously been trained in the dark arts for a long time now. He was holding off both him and Robin with regularity, if not ease. Robin was still reeling from the news that he was a harbinger of the doom that had forced Lucina and her friends to come back in time, so it was no shock that he was only present for the battle half the time. It was forcing Crom to cover for both of them, which gave him no real time to help his friend snap out of his stupor. "Blast it, Robin, I need you!" He tried several times to go for the fire emblem, but Validar always had a blast spell ready for the prince anytime he attempted to get past him. "Still, we have to get it back before the ritual finishes," Crom thought as he dodged a black spell. "That or kill him before then." "Such a waste, my boy," Validar said at one point in the fight. "Whether or not you defeat me, there are some things you simply cannot change." "Like what?" Robin grunted as he used lightning to counter a magic attack. "The fact that this has all been pre-orchestrated," Validar said calmly, as if fighting for his life were an everyday occurrence. "That no matter what you think you will accomplish here, it means nothing. The second fact is that no matter what you or your friends tell you, I am your father. We are blood, you and I. This is truth." "And I reject your truth for the lie that it is!" Robin finally screamed, rosy fire coming to life across his body. It seemed as though Validar's taunts were too much for him to take, and something had snapped. "You may have sired me, but as far as I'm concerned, you're an enemy of Elise that must be crushed underfoot." Crom backed away from the sight with some traces of fear, so he missed what appeared to be a nod of approval from Validar. "Fathers are kind," Robin growled as lightning blazed across his fingertips while he aimed his hand at Validar. Too late, the evil man saw the spell coming, and he was struck with a lightning bolt through his arm, causing him to recoil in agony. "Fathers protect you," Robin added, casting another spell that singed Validar's leg, causing him to stumble backwards. Still Robin kept advancing, saying, "Fathers raise you." The third bolt caught his enemy in the abdomen, nearly killing him where he stood, forcing him to his knees as the pair threatened to overtake him. Crom wasn't even pressing the attack anymore, seemingly content to let Robin work out his anguish however he needed. The blonde tactician stopped not 4 feet away from the writhing king and growled, "I was protected by Exalt Emran, and I was raised by the shepherds." He leveled his hand, which glowed with lightning magic once more as he said, "They are my family, Elise is my home, and you are not welcome in my life any longer. Mjolnir!" An unbelievable amount of lightning magic coalesced above Validar and descended in the time it takes to blink. The magic produced an ear-splitting thunderclap that even those on the other side of the energy barrier could hear clearly. The smell of charred flesh and burnt clothing filled the air, coming from a smoldering pile that used to be Validar. Yet strangely, Robin and Crom both clearly heard the dead king say, "Even this was foretold." "Sinon, cover Owain," Kirito ordered as he stabbed through Arisen while sparing a quick glance at the battle around him. Fortunately, the zombie-like monsters moved slowly enough for him to do things like that every now and again. "Got it," she said as she floated a little higher in the air, sighted, drew, and released an arrow that took out a mage getting ready to target the boy. "Owain needs no aid," he protested. Then he proceeded to cut down 3 of his attackers in as many seconds, causing the cat-sea archer to blink in surprise. Apparently, he wasn't kidding. Looking up, he saluted her and added, "But I appreciate it anyways." "Kazuto!" The leader of the Aincrad warriors looked up to see his kid sister barreling right toward him, her sword coming up for an overhead blow. "Move it or lose it!" Taking the hint, he sped out of the way just in time for her to slash through another Risen that had popped up behind him. "They just keep coming," Rickon panted. "Who's even summoning them?" "They said they were trying to resurrect Grima, right?" Aiko said as she and her twin danced around a trio of human swordsmen that were trying to cut them down. "My guess is that even though he's not able to take on a physical form, he could still mess with us quite a bit." "Sounds about right," Jerome grumbled as he finished off a griffin rider from his wyvern's back. "Back in our world, they could bring up an army of these things just by breathing on a graveyard." Before anyone else could interject, there was a sound of thunder booming from behind the force field, accompanied by a blinding flash of light. When the noise and light had settled, the Risen were all gone, and the few humans that had been present were fleeing the scene. The force field was gone, and the 2 leaders of the shepherds stood alone. "So, did we win?" Inigo asked. Crom and Robin both stared at the blackened corpse of Validar with something like surprise. Crom turned to face his friend to ask a question, but then something bizarre happened. The corpse became wreathed in purple-black energy, got on its knees, and screamed in a warped voice. "This isn't over!" Extending his twisted limb to aim at Crom, a black orb shot forth as the dead man screamed, "Damn you both!" Robin didn't pause to think. He acted completely on instinct, shouldering Crom aside and taking the blast meant for his friend. "Robin!" Lucina cried, but Crom was already moving to check on his friend, kneeling beside him and helping him to stand. "Robin?" he asked. "Are you all right?" When Robin opened his eyes, the ruler of Elise breathed a huge sigh of relief. Looking back at Validar's remains, he grinned and said, "Looks like we did it. At long last we can rest easy, thanks to you." Robin said, seeming to choke on the word. "Crom." "Huh?" the man asked as he looked at his friend, who was swaying on his feet unsteadily. "Are you okay?" Robin looked up at him with glowing red eyes, and time seemed to freeze. Crom gripped his best friend's shoulder and said, "Hey, Robin, snap out of it! I'm right." The shepherds all recoiled in shock as they saw Robin skewer Crom through the chest with a Thoron spell with a blank expression. Just as fast, the Crown Prince of Elise fell to the ground, unmoving. "No," Lucina said hoarsely, falling to her knees, despair washing over her. "I failed again." Everything that she had worked toward, everything that her friends had sacrificed, it was all for naught. Fate had won out in the end. A ripple of dark laughter preceded Validar, who walked out of the shadow of the massive altar, looking none the worse for his battle with Robin and the prince. He crowed. "You see, not even twice the amount of shepherds could stop this. This moment was set in stone over 1,000 years ago. You really thought that—" "Shove it, creep," said a new voice that came from above. Before anyone could look to see who was the speaker, there was a blur of motion. Something or someone crashed into Validar from above, sending him sprawling on the cold ground. At first, some of the shepherds thought that it might have been Mataris, as it was a tactic they had seen him use many times. The moment the figure rose up, however, they realized that the color scheme was all wrong. None of them had ever seen Mataris wear anything other than black, and this newcomer was dressed in red. "Wait a sec, those aren't red clothes," Kirito muttered aloud as his eyes widened along with the others. "Those are—" The newcomer flexed their back muscles, and 4 shining salamander wings flared to life, glimmering even in the dark of the temple. The owner of said wings was a young woman with reddish hair and narrow eyes of a matching shade. "How is that possible?" Asuna asked, eyes wide. "None of us have—" "Like I told the Khans," said an impossibly familiar voice as its owner strode up to the group from the shadows. "Time for Fate to have a crash course in history." Katana in hand, bandana holding his messy hair up, and wearing his signature goofy grin, Klein stood before them, alive and well.